Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. World of Warcraft Shadowlands has been out now for a little while, and one of the most important decisions you can make in the new expansion is which covenant to choose. Many people are using the new covenant abilities to help them make this decision. However, a problem occurring quite regularly is that the class that you are doesn't always thematically fit with the choice that you make. I'm here to tell you today that every single class in the game can fit with every single covenant. Today, we're going to be focusing on Hunter, so let's get to it. Revendreth is the first zone, the first covenant that we are going to deal with. Now, good news, I have a really easy fix for you. If you are playing a race with pointy ears, you're an honorary vamp boy. GG, enough said, job done. If only it were that easy. For some of you, it will be. I know with my Hunter specifically, that would honestly have been enough. However, that will not do for the purposes of this video. So let's dive deeper into the vampire fantasy. Vampires being the theme of the zone, the biggest aesthetic that has influenced the zone of Revendreth. Now, what I always think of when I think of vampires is of drains. Drain life, drain whatever it might be. Now, the link that I see for that towards Hunter is the link of that to poison. So you have a talent that you can spec into called Serpent Sting, which is essentially poison arrows. Now, in your toolkit, you have many different shots, many different arrowheads, many different arrows. You have explosive shot, binding shot, lots of shots. Revendreth's covenant ability is a dot, most akin to poison. And with all the available abilities that Hunter currently has on offer, I always imagine a Hunter, a Venthyr Hunter, as this diverse arrow, poison master, assassin, especially as a lone hunter marksmanship, with your Revendreth arrow sapping health from the enemy while you shoot shot after shot after shot. And I imagine a bandolier of arrows, a quiver of arrows at your hip for you to choose from. Now on to Maldraxis. Now with Maldraxis, I'm going to look at the aspect to Hunter that is the taming of your pets, the taming of your beasts. Now, I feel as if you can look at this in one of two ways. Maldraxis is a zone that's harsh. It's the home of battle-hardened warriors. The climb and terrain is harrowing, and so the beasts reflect this. They've been through this gauntlet of fire to reach maturity, and you can see this as taming and mastering the best of the best beasts. It's this competition. You're entering Maldraxis and you see this plethora of boars, of spiders, these beasts that you find your competitive nature urging you to pursue, to not only hunt them but to tame them. I think with beast mastery especially, this is something that rings quite true as something that's quite compelling. Now you can see that. You can see the beasts of Maldraxis that way, as these battle-hardened, gauntlet of fire, hardened, tough animals. On the other hand, you can also see the beasts as having suffered. And yes, they've adapted, but they're these creatures that have been through pain, that have trauma, that have been through things that have made them, yes, what they are. But you, being perhaps a hunter that focuses less on competitiveness, on hard-edged, battle-stained hunter that you are, perhaps you're the kinder type, the one that wants to soothe those that have had this hard time put upon them. You see the zone and these sludge pools, and you see these rocky, sharp cliffs, and you see all of these beasts that have this aesthetic, and you want to tame them, yes, but you don't want to tame them to dominate them. You want to tame them to give them something better, to teach them that the wilds of Maldraxis and what that's subjected them to is not the only thing out there. I would also mention, if you're an undead, I feel as if there's something of an affinity towards Maldraxis, in the sense of it's a reminder of home and Lordaeron. I mean, you look at the Plague Lands, for example, they're on the doorstep of Lordaeron. In Lordaeron itself, it's very dark, it's tinged with these beasts that are either undead, or they're hounds, or they're spiders or bats. You're used to the Undercity in Lordaeron that has these dank sewers full of sludge and acid. And I think as an undead, you see this zone, and I can see a level of kinship with that, especially considering in the last expansion, if you are an undead, you lost your home. You lost your home in the Battle of Lordaeron. Sylvanas effectively renders the keep and the Undercity as a result uninhabitable. You've got to think from a lore perspective, the undead currently are homeless, and I think there are a lot of visual cues of Maldraxis that are likely to remind an undead of their home, especially considering the Plague Lands, which probably are more reminiscent of Maldraxis and are on the doorstep of Lordaeron itself. Now, I've spoken about marksmanship a little bit. I've spoken about beast mastery, but what about survival? I think survival comes into play with Maldraxis. Maldraxis is the zone that houses the army of the Shadowlands. Now, I'm going to level with you at this point. If you have chosen Survival Hunter, if you have chosen a polearm, a spear, over a bow, ranged weapon, then let's be honest with ourselves, there is a level of the anarchistic within you. Not a bad thing in this sense. It gives you an in to this covenant, because I think there's an argument to be made that you like bloodshed. You're getting up close and personal. There's an aggression there. It stands to reason you'd make a great foot soldier for the army of Maldraxis, someone who relishes more in the combat of being a hunter as opposed to the beast mastery side. Perhaps this would pair well with what I mentioned before, with wanting to tame, wanting to come into this zone and dominate it, and dominate the beasts there, because they're the hardened, tough beasts that I've mentioned before. And all you want to do is go up to a big bad boar and stab it with a spear, and fair play to you. Moving on to Ardenweald. Again, the animal link is there. I think Ardenweald is possibly one of the easiest Covenant choices to get on board with Hunter. At the end of the day, it's the most traditional, I would say, Hunter zone to enjoy. It's an entire forest full of beasts and game. The beasts of Ardenweald are wondrous and magical and beautiful, and so I think it particularly speaks to hunters that respect animals and respect the taming of a beast. On the flip side, if you wanted to go the traditional hunter route and you see Ardenweald as a place where you can hunt and skin and use the meat for cooking, and you want to use all of the animal for everything that you need, Ardenweald is a great place for that. Not only that, you can become one with the animals with soul shape. It's possibly the only time as a hunter you'll actually become an animal, to the point that you take this love and this nurturing relationship between animals that you have with your pets to the point where you can shift into an aspect of a shape that you respect and revere as a hunter. Ardenweald is also a place where you can fulfill your ranger fantasy. To draw on an example, I would use Strider or Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings. More specifically, the incarnation of him that was Strider was a man of the Dunedain who was very respectful of nature, and he was this figure that wandered the wilds and was this ranger of the north that guarded the wilds and protected those within it. I think that's the kind of fantasy that Ardenweald gives you. I think when you enter Ardenweald, you get this sense of, this is a place that could be mine and it's under my protection, and as a hunter you could become the ranger of Ardenweald. Bastion is the final Covenant choice that you have available to you, and I think in a lot of ways this is similar to Ardenweald in the sense that it's a Garden of Eden archetype, but more so the Garden of Eden specifically. I personally remember pre-Shadowlands, many months before, Bastion, and seeing Bastion on the alpha made me make a hunter. It legitimately, out of all the zones, it made me make a hunter, because I imagined him walking over the golden grass, standing on the cliffs and letting the breeze and the blue rays of the day wash over him and his pair, and spending a big old wholesome time with big blue boys. Now, if that kind of thing doesn't appeal to you, I think again drawing on the foot soldier idea from Maldraxis is something that also applies to this case, but less bloodthirsty than I made out in that section of the video. More honourable, this spear-wielding warrior of Bastion. Perhaps if you weren't a survival hunter, if you had that ranged weapon, whether you were beast mastery or marksmanship, I think the imagery of the angel with a bow, with the wings on their back, it's very aesthetically symbiotic with hunter, especially when you look at in-game. Eventually, when you get your renown to a certain point, you will have the wings available as a back piece. You can roleplay till your heart is content with any Apollo Greek hero fantasy that you can think of, with the arrows of Apollo, again the guardianship, the guardian of Bastion. I think the thing that I see recurring with Hunter is very much this idea of this assassin of Revendreth, this stalker of Maldraxis, the ranger in Ardenweald, and the guardian of Bastion. I think all of these archetypes are things that the hunter can fulfill, and I think with the different zones, the hunter is something that fits in quite nicely in every single one. I think it's a very diverse class. At the end of the day, what you've got to kind of rely on, what you've got to think on with hunter is it's a figure, it's a being with either a bow, a crossbow, a gun, or a spear, which is very general. It's very general. There's not necessarily much lore tied to it with mages, with paladins, with death knights. There's a lot of lore tied into those classes. But with hunter, you are a night elf, you are a human, you're an orc, you're a gnome who has essentially picked up a weapon. And what I would end this video with, if you're ever struggling with whichever covenant you've chosen and trying to make it thematically make sense for your class, I would always call you back to why you picked up that bow, why you picked up that gun in the first place. What are your motivations? What did you want to become? Did you do it because you wanted to be the best, you wanted to be the fastest, the best shot? Did you do it because you had a respect for animals, that you loved animals and you had this affinity that made you able to tame them? On the other hand, did you want to dominate the animals? Did you want to seek out the strongest, the fastest, to test your mettle against them? The hunter encapsulates all of these. And with that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and hopefully this video has gone a little bit of the way towards making you feel more at home in whichever covenant you've chosen. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.